Hey guys, I'm Stefan Kesting. This is Rob Bernacki. This is Rory Van Vliet. What are we doing today, Rob?
We're going to go over some specialty situations to do with our leg locking system. Largely, we're going to be covering some escapes from difficult positions, submissions that you can use to quickly turn the tables on your opponent. If you extract yourself, you can move into a leg entanglement. There are going to be a couple of other sort of unconventional ways that you can get to a leg entanglement off of something else. Just some treats that will round out your game. Once you've established a good ability with the different leg locking aspects, you can start to look to create opportunities out of scenarios that wouldn't have been opportunities before, where you can defend successfully and again immediately move into offense.
So you're going to advocate getting caught in the twister, getting caught in the rear mount,
Yeah.
so you can move into leg lock.
Exactly. That's if you've ever listened to anything I've said, that's exactly how I believe jiu-jitsu should be. Learn a move to counter a move. All right, our first specialty situation is going to be an oldie but a goodie. This is something from my 1.0 leg locking days. I used to pull this off once in a while. It's an armbar escape into the standard ashi. Obviously, I would do the leg entanglement a little bit differently nowadays, but conceptually, I got myself into an armbar, and I've got some kind of functional defense going on. This isn't one of those like you got me and I'm going to try to do something. That's not how this stuff works. Either I've got my hands connected, or ideally I've got my bicep grip and I'm behind your knee, so I'm not in substantial danger of the armbar at any point. I'm going to look to bridge, and by the way, there's a couple of details on this armbar escape that Kyotera really helped me out with. So again, check out his material, KyoTeraBJJ.com. I'm going to walk my hips and my feet away, setting a good angle, and I'm going to look to bridge onto my head. Now, in the process of doing this escape, occasionally you're going to have the opportunity to hide your elbow. So I walk my feet out and I bridge like this to try to drive you onto your back. If I feel there's enough space in the middle of this escape to turn and hide my elbow, I'm going to do it. I now have a frame from my shoulder to my elbow blocking your hip and your leg chambered across. So you can't get any closer to me by virtue of this frame. I'm going to hip escape, bring myself into the standard ashi garami, control both legs, move to the strong side, finish with a heel hook.
So anytime you get that elbow down below my pubic bone.
Exactly. The armbar escape almost doesn't matter here. As long as you have one that works for you. If you happen to be super flexible and you like to do the hitchhiker escape and then you hide your elbow, that's great.
So now I can't armbar you anymore.
Exactly. However I got here, I got past your hips, and now I have a frame. I'm going to collect the back of your knee. I'm going to bridge and hip escape far enough that I can bring my shin in, go to my leg entanglement. You can go to this side as well, but again, I would recommend collecting both legs and moving to this side to finish from here. All right, our next specialty situation is going to be a twister defense, untangling the twister to move into the 411. So let's say that Rory moves himself into this leg control entanglement and starts to move me into the twister. So this is a scenario that's going to happen for him to twister me. He's going to have to control my leg, the lever to my hip. He's got opposite corner rotational control. This is really bad for me. He's going to have to make a transition now where he brings my arm over his head and then brings his arm behind my head. Once he gets this grip, he's going to connect his hands, and now I'm going to have to tap, or I'm going to get a severe abdominal stretch. I'm going to start to get some spinal injuries, some rib injuries, that kind of stuff. So this moment, I know that he's going to have to transition. As he transitions behind his head, I'm going to grip my hands so that I'm controlling his posture, bringing it to me as much as I can. I don't just stay at the base of his spine, I curl my elbow out, trying to pull his head, breaking his posture. If I'm able to do this, I'm able to negate his bridging power, I'm able to negate his grip, his arm is going to be stuck. It's possible that while he reaches behind, so it shifts my arm, while he reaches behind my head, as long as I keep my structure, see I had to come up, I'm able to pull him to me and break his posture again. It's just much better if I don't wait. Again, it's possible when he gets here, but depending on his strength and his alignment in the position, it may be too late. Right? So as soon as he brings my arm behind his head, I grip whatever's most powerful for me, basically headlocking him, but trying to get as close to the top of his head as possible, closing him to me as much as I can. Now I'm going to look to pummel my legs. I'm going to step on his leg, extending this leg out, freeing my bottom leg. I'm still controlling this lever. He should still be stuck in this particular position. I'm going to extend this leg away as I switch into the 411, grabbing his leg, pulling away from him, creating a frame, preventing him from grabbing me. Then I can move into my dig mechanics, for example, shelving the leg and finishing on the reverse heel hook. This is an escape that was utilized by Jeff Glover in 80cc against Gio Martinez, which he then used to transition into a triangle, which Gio then used to pick Jeff up and slam him on his head and use that to win the match. But that doesn't negate the fact that it's a pretty sound escape and gets you out of a really nasty spot. So use it to go to the 411. In the next clip, we're going to show you how to use it to go to the outside ashi. All right, as promised, we're now going to go through that twister escape, or twister defense to escape to outside ashi. Let's make sure that the leg work is really visible here. Again, my partner's got control of my arm. I'm trying to maintain, again, anytime I'm in this position, the more twisted up I am, the worse off I am. Like if I'm like this, it's going to be really bad for me. So I'm trying to maintain as much knee-elbow connection. I'm trying to bring this knee towards me. I'm trying to keep my shoulders squared up with my hips. If my hips are pointed the opposite way to my shoulders, when he goes to transfer the arm behind, there is absolutely no way that I'm grabbing his head. He's going to be able to finish me. So I want to make sure that I'm as close to him in my positioning and as strong in my alignment as possible. So I'm going to bring my knee towards me. I'm going to keep my hips and shoulders in alignment. I'm going to keep my back as close to the floor as I can, even though he's going to be trying to push me in that direction. As he goes to make his shift, I'm going to try to come close to him. Let's rewind for a second. If I stay here and he goes to make that shift, my arm is so extended, he's now going to be able to pull me into him and break my alignment really readily. Let's go back. So as he pulls my arm across, I go to him as close as I can. This is going to allow me to connect my hands and break his posture. I get my leg inside and I free it, keeping a hook here, allowing my leg to come out. I can go to standard ashi, or I can let the hook come out, move to outside ashi, still be holding. Now, because he's holding my arm, I'm going to have to make sure that I dig my feet into his hip, get my hand on his elbow, push him away as I move to my finish, crossing my feet over, bridge wedging, and finishing on the outside heel hook. So once again, from a slightly different angle, if I'm too far away or if my hips are twisted up, when he pulls my arm across, there's no way that I am bicep curling his head. He's going to finish me with relative ease. Try to make sure that my knee is as close to me as possible. When he's controlling my arm and goes to shift it behind his head, I'm moving towards him as much as I can, trying to grip my hands connected at the top of his skull. I'm going to bring my foot in. I'm going to pummel to free my legs. As I free my legs, I can move into the standard ashi or look to bring my leg across, move into the outside ashi. Again, he'll probably still be trying to hold on to me. I'm going to have to hand fight a little bit, use my feet to kick him away, end up in a good position to engage my bridge wedge, engage my dig mechanic, switch to my reverse butterfly grip, and finish. Okay, sometimes when people attack your back, they actually go for your back instead of going for the twister. In this case, as long as somebody's got a single hook in, you're going to be able to grand beat to the outside ashi. So assuming that somebody's got one hook in like this, and I'm doing a good job of defending, preventing my partner from getting any kind of meaningful grip established, I'm going to start to turn to my right side, and as I elevate my hip, I'm maintaining good knee-elbow connection. The ball of my foot's going to be on the mat to generate base. As I continue to elevate my hip, I'm going to start to bypass his leg with my butt as I grand beat and invert. This is my opportunity to grab his leg, pull him into the outside ashi, bridge wedge, dig, and finish on the heel hook. And hopefully if you're watching this volume, you understand that Stefan and I are entirely joking when we say you should bait someone to get here and then do something. We're definitely going to be trying to defend ourselves as technically sound fashion as possible. It's only when this happens that, and this is the reason we're calling this specialty situations and not escapes to leg locks. You may be able to get this to happen, you may not. It's way far down in terms of percentage of effectiveness. Please don't think that you can just learn these moves and get here from bad positions. You have to be fundamentally sound in every possible way to even have a chance of pulling this off. You have to understand base, posture, structure, frames, levers, alignment, shifts in center of gravity, all things you can learn from the Core Concepts app on the BJJ Formula, which you should check out. So again, I find myself here. I'm doing a good job of maintaining good structure. I ended up giving up my back partially, but I didn't give up a full seatbelt, and I didn't give up the far hook. I'm going to start to turn away, invert, and my hip is going to clear to the other side, digging down with my heel, crossing. Again, I don't try to finish from here because if Rory grabs me, now I end up on the bottom of smashy and I've got greater problems. So when I get here, I try to make sure that I'm engaging in whatever hand fight I need to. I frame him, move away, step on his hip, make sure I cross my ankles properly, lift my hip, get my dig mechanic going, switch to the reverse butterfly grip if available, shrug, and finish. Let's go through a slightly different application of this. This would be from a turtle, where somebody's got one hook in, and you're managing to keep them from getting any other exposure to your structure, not permitting the far hook to go in, not permitting the seatbelt to go in. Right? As long as I get this, if I'm able to create this Granby and grab that far leg, I'll be able to get my leg control. Again, I start framing, I can step on his thigh, I can step on the mat if I need to, hip escape, set myself up for a proper outside ashi, set myself up for proper bridge wedge and dig mechanics, and then finish. All right, if you are a practitioner of the deep half guard, I'm sure at some point you find yourself the victim of the Marcelo Garcia style deep half killer, where he steps the knee across, drops in kind of a James Brown style split. I have an answer for you. Again, assuming that I've moved myself into the deep half guard and he drops his knee, moves into the deep half killer. This normally is going to shut down a lot of your sweeping options. You're obviously no longer in the deep half guard. Or you allow your elbow to come out, you're dealing with triangle attacks, which is pretty unpleasant. So when I arrive here, I'm going to make sure that I'm hiding my elbow underneath, making a frame against his hip, keeping my head strong. One of the main things that your partner is going to be looking to do from here is pass this leg across the head and finish passing your guard. So if I can keep a good frame inside and a good grip here, pinning his hip in place while I arch my neck, it's going to make it very difficult for him to bring his leg across.
Very flexible to be able to do that.
Very flexible indeed. My right foot is going to be in base, and it's going to start to bridge while I maintain that extension of my neck. At this point, sometimes you'll be able to use your shin as a frame temporarily, but it shouldn't be necessary. If you bridge correctly, you should now be able to hip escape and entangle from here, setting your foot against your partner's hip. You can now move into the standard ashigarami by going underneath, but since you're already here, I would recommend pushing away, inverting, tilting your partner backwards into the 411 and attempting to finish on the reverse heel hook from here. All right, another specialty situation is going to be a transition from the omoplata, and there are going to be a couple of different ways this can go. The first way that we're going to address is when your partner postures out. Now, the omoplata is a great technique. If I can get you in my guard here a second, Roy. The omoplata is a great technique. In the gi, it's a little more effective simply because we've got these handles where we can break our opponent's posture by virtue of a proxy control. In no gi, when we omoplata someone, if we execute this style of omoplata where we put our leg in front of the face, you're often going to be engaged in a battle where your partner's going to start to posture out. Now, I want to do everything I can to prevent that from happening. When I enter my omoplata, if I've created some kind of internal rotation, open elbow style movement, I can choose to amplify my omoplata by, instead of making this tiny little leg movement, by slapping my leg across and driving my partner to the mat. But that's not what we're concerning ourselves with, because if that happens, then our partner's not going to be able to posture up, and we won't have the leg transition. So if I have performed this, I'm going to be holding on to my partner's elbow as much as I can, and as he starts to posture up, I'm going to be reaching, so go ahead, I'm going to be reaching through here and allowing my knee to slide in. This is one of the few times you're going to use the butterfly ashi position, or at least one of the few times that I ever use it. pulling the knee to you, and then I'm moving back out into the outside ashi, exposing my partner's heel, turning and finishing, or using that opportunistic 50-50 transfer and finishing on the reverse heel hook.
It's awful. My arm gets stuck in there with my leg.
Exactly. So the earlier I respond to his posture, the more likely his arm is going to be stuck. So I start to flare his arm out, I start to do this, he postures up, I switch. Now in this case he got his arm out, I'm immediately transferring my leg out into the outside ashigarami. That's the best leg entanglement to usually go to from here. I'm going to try to force the roll and finish on the heel hook. Okay, the next movement is going to be the omoplata, where you are able to execute a proper posture break and your partner is forced to roll. So, again, how we got here is a material, you're going to have your omoplata setups. You're going to usually have to set some kind of frame, separate your partner's elbow from his torso, creating a little bit of internal rotation. I'm now going to start to slap my leg to the mat. And if I'm able to bring my leg out here, it's going to be in his best interest to start to roll. When he does, I'm going to allow my knee to come through, and I'm just going to catch the end of the lever here. Allow him to complete the roll, and I'm going to stop either in the 411 or just, this is the one time that I will allow myself the top side or cross ashi finish for the reverse heel hook, because it's such a gift you don't necessarily have to move all the way into the 411. But I would still recommend doing it if you have the time and the leg dexterity. It is a better control scheme. Let's go through that one more time. From here, again, I flare my partner's elbow, I slap him to the ground. As he starts to roll, I decelerate and I hip escape. I set my shin in. I can finish on the heel hook, or let's go through it one more time where I transition fully to the 411. Hip escape, omoplata, he escapes like this. I let my leg come out, hooking behind the butt, collect his leg, move to the 411, or collect his leg and move to the finish right off the bat, whatever you feel is more appropriate at the time. All right, we have another kind of fun specialty situation for you. This is going to be a triangle choke attempt on your partner's part, which you're going to turn into a leg entanglement. It's important that we say this is a triangle choke attempt. You can certainly escape triangle chokes into leg entanglements. However, if the person you're dealing with is good at triangle chokes, you're not going to escape and get into a leg entanglement. So I don't want you going down that rabbit hole. I'd much rather you understand proper alignment, base posture, structure, and these kinds of principles that allow you to exploit poor attempts that don't take your alignment into account and just attempt to shoot moves at you. So I find myself in my partner's guard, and he's doing this kind of double wrist control, and then he just shoots a triangle from here. This is what I'm talking about. He hasn't affected my alignment, he hasn't affected my base, he hasn't affected my posture, structure, anything like that. So I'm going to be able to defend this relatively easily. Let's rewind for a second. So again, I've got good base, I've got good posture, I've got good structure. My partner thinks he can triangle me. As he does, I'm blocking with my elbow, and I'm coming up into a knee split. I'm placing my knee in his taint, and I'm going to just use a back extension to break the triangle. Pinch the thigh, drop back into a leg entanglement, standard ashigarami usually, and attempt to pursue my leg attacks from here. So one more time. Again, this is an important distinction. I am not allowing myself to go way out of alignment and then try to escape the triangle from here. This should not work. It doesn't mean it won't work, but it shouldn't. For me to be successful, he's got to fuck up. I don't want counting on my partner's stupidity or incompetence or laziness or tiredness or human error to be a part of my game. I want to try to make my proper positioning the part of my game that I count on. So I'm in good position. He goes to here. I posture. I bring my elbow in. I bring my knee in. In this case, I've got his leg chambered. Instead of going for standard ashi on the leg, I'm going to go to the 411, transfer, secure, and move into my leg attacks from here.
So in this move, Rob baits me into taking his back so that he can nail me with a leg lock.
Exactly how I would have done it. 2-on-1 grip, blocking the killing hand, the choking arm here. I'm going to look to create as much base as I can with my heels. I'm going to look to use my head here to drive past Stefan's head, moving myself into a position where I can scrape my shoulders off his chest to the floor, using the floor as a barrier to keep him from occupying my back. I keep the bridge the entire time. You notice that Stefan's already losing his hook. As long as I'm able to maintain my bridge, it's going to be hard for him to reinsert his hook. I'm going to start to frame this top leg here. Once I shimmy out enough where Stefan starts to think about getting on top, I'm going to hip escape and bring my knee in, blocking him from getting any closer to the mount, and get myself into the standard ashigarami and attempt to leg lock from here.
So you know that I'm going to try and climb into mount at some point.
Exactly. Unless you're pretty early on in your development, you're going to know that you don't latch onto me while I escape and get on top of your side control. So realistically, once I switch, yeah.
So you're going to the open side.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to drive to the weak side, get my head past you, get my head on the ground for a post so that I can maintain my bridge. The stronger my bridge, by the way, here, once my shoulder pops out, I can let go. I'm not going to be choked anymore. There's a barrier here. As long as my hip is up, I can strip this if I need to against flexible guys, that may be necessary. And then I'm framing here. As I start to hip escape, normally he would look to get on top and mount me. So I'm counting on him to perform that motion. So if we rewind this for a second, I'm here like this. I'm framing and I'm going to hip escape. And you notice there, I use my bottom leg slightly to create an extension in his leg, controlling the end of the lever and dropping him into the standard ashigarami. So from here, I would finish by attempting to force the roll. I would turn my partner's leg, gripping the knee if I needed to, roll through to the strong side, dig as we're rolling, keep my foot on the hip, keep my hip elevated, and finish on the heel hook. All right, our next specialty situation comes to you as so many things in my game do, courtesy of the wizardry of Kyotera. This is a body triangle escape. Again, if you want to learn this properly, because I can't do it nearly as well as he can, go to kyotera.com, check out some of this stuff. But if I find myself in the body triangle and I need to untangle the legs, what I'm going to look to do, again, assuming that I'm doing a good job of negating his choke attacks. I can't just be operating like this. I'm going to get choked instantly. So assuming I've done a good job of securing the killing hand, I'm not in an immediate choke threat. My shoulder is protecting my jaw. My head is tucked in tight. I'm going to look to turn my hips over as much as I possibly can to create a bit of a profile to attack this leg that's inside the body triangle by swinging back and capturing the foot. I'm using my thigh to press down and unlock the body triangle. I'm going to do that again. I turn my hip as much as I can to create a little bit of an angle, because especially if he's hooked under my leg here, I'm not going to be able to turn in this direction. So I turn my hip as much as I can, unlock my leg, back my leg up, turn my hip again to capture his heel behind my thigh. I start to press down. Now I'm able to access this lever here with my hand. I'm controlling the sole of the foot as usual, pushing towards him and now framing. I've unlocked the body triangle. I keep my head tucked in. I still can be in a little bit of danger here if my elbow gets open. So I keep my elbow tucked in. I start to hip escape, placing my knee inside. I can now push away into the standard ashigarami, look to dig on the heel, or look to force the roll, dig on the heel then, look to do whatever I prefer to do from my leg entanglements. I just found my way out of one of the worst possible positions in jiu-jitsu, so I should just be happy no matter what. All right, from one more angle, I'm keeping good defensive alignment here. I'm controlling the killing hand. I'm going to turn my hip, exposing this leg, rock it back, try to get behind his heel with my thigh, pushing down, and grip the sole of his foot, accessing this lever. Right? I'm now going to make sure that my elbow is inside. If my elbow flares, I'm going to get an arm triangle. My elbow stays inside. I start hip escaping, controlling this lever. I bring my knee in to frame. I hip escape, chest escape, and then put myself into a leg entanglement outside of the body triangle in a much more favorable position to myself. All right, our final specialty situation is going to involve escaping the mount. So you can use this mount escape, by the way, without any leg entanglement. This is just a very reliable way to get yourself out of the mount, but it does lead really nicely into the standard ashigarami, especially depending on the direction that your opponent chooses to shift their weight. So the first thing we're going to do is recognize that when I'm being mounted, bridging is critical. Bridging correctly is even more critical, because if all I do is bridge and Stefan just kind of relaxes into the bridge and rides the bridge, there's no way I'm going to affect him. I need to shift his center of gravity forward. In a jiu-jitsu match, this is not immediately important, particularly in a sub-only context, but in a fight, Yes, bloody important that I don't allow my partner to sit here. I mean, I guess if it's a fight, it's not my partner. He's my enemy. So what I'm going to do is immediately bridge and knee him in the butt. This bridge from the mount, you just shouldn't bridge any other way. There's no point in bridging like this. You're just liable to get your teeth caved in. So make sure that you're pressing your knee against your partner's hip, mid-back, depends on how big they are relative to you. Initiate your bridge with both feet and then keep pushing as your partner's weight shifts. In the middle of this movement, there's going to be an apex where you can turn and set your elbow against your partner's hip on this side, not on this side. This is going to get my back taken. I'm going to get gift wrapped. I'm going to get my face punched in, even worse. I keep my elbow framing against my partner's hip at as close to a 45-degree angle as I can while maintaining the pressure with my bottom leg to keep him stuck in this alignment. I'm also hiding my elbow underneath his knee here. I can connect my hands if necessary, as long as I'm framing with my upper arm here, my humerus against the inside of his knee, and I'm framing with my elbow against his hip, and constantly being able to shift his weight forward so that he keeps his weight in his hands and gives me access to a subsequent bridge. As long as I keep this frame, I'm preventing him from isolating my hip. Now when I bridge here, you'll notice that I may not be able to hip escape enough. This is very important against larger opponents. When I bridge, I'm going to rotate over almost like I'm trying to invert. So I'm going to bridge and I'm going to step this way. This is allowing me to create a frame with my spine and with my legs to keep Stefan's weight off of me. Now, in the case of Stefan's weight going to that side the way it did, I would move to the half guard. As the leg entanglement is not available for me. But if I get to this alignment and when I bridge, Stefan's weight shifts towards this side, now his leg behind me is light. I've created a box keeping his weight off of me. I'm going to hip escape straight back and move into the standard Ashigarami. So again, you don't choose. Depending on which way your partner happens to switch their weight, you may have to go to half guard. You can go to the leg entanglement, but that's up to your partner. Your job is to make sure, and I'll just do this motion without you here for a second, Stefan. Your job is to ensure that when you create this frame, you're creating basically a scaffold that keeps your partner's weight off of you. A lot of people have difficulty with the mount because they bridge or they get on their side and they attempt to hip escape, but if their partner is heavy enough and the dimensions are correct, it can be difficult to ever actually get your hip out of there. So if I can create the scaffold with my arms and then bridge and turn over. So now I'm creating a scaffold from my shoulder through my spine to my hip, and with both my legs here and my arms, I'm using as much structure as I possibly can to keep my partner's weight in the air, shifting it so that now it's on my arms, and then I can either hip escape backwards or push my partner's knee and move into either the half guard or the butterfly guard. So I'm going to do this again at a slightly different angle. I'm kneeing my partner in the butt, landing on my side, and Stefan's going to try to stay real heavy with both his knees and his hips. There we go. I'm going to bridge again, displacing him, using that almost inverted motion. The key here being my elbow. If my elbow stays here, I'm okay. If my elbow were to pass through, I'm obviously giving up my back. So again, understanding proper frames, proper alignment, I'm now going to escape my hip straight back because his leg is light. Stefan's weight is on his left knee. His right leg is light. I'm going to be able to push straight back, bring my knee inside, set my standard ashi, begin to reap, forcing the roll, dig on the way, and finish on the heel hook.
So starting in a terrible position and winning the fight with a heel hook.
Yeah, this is actually something that you've seen in a few situations recently. But there's different ways to get here. There's certainly an escape that some of the DDS guys are using that involves kipping that I don't quite have enough experience with to teach it, but this is an escape that's been extremely reliable for me. Again, unrelated to leg locks. This is how I've been teaching mount escapes for a while. It just happens to feed into an easy entry into the standard.
So you're saying leg locks are actually part of jiu-jitsu or not a separate area of jiu-jitsu?
Exactly.
Weird.
It's all supposed to work together.
Well, Rob, on behalf of myself, on behalf of everyone who's watching, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your leg lock system with us. It's been a really, really interesting couple of days. It's been a very long couple of days.
Yes, it has.
We got to thank Rory. We got to thank Matt. We got to thank all the people for watching, but especially we got to thank you for sharing this stuff with us. So
It's been my
thank you
pleasure.
so much.
Thank you
And,
for the opportunity, Steph.
Hope to see you on the mats again another day.
Sounds good.